Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
You're listening to the podcast, So There I Was. It's how all great aviation tales begin. This is episode 59. I'll get an A for effort.
59.
Yeah, recorded with KO.
Yeah, what a fun interview KO was.
Our second former Marine enlisted Army helicopter pilot.
It's a trend now. It's a trend. Yeah, and KO was KO's great interview as well. Wow.
He was a lot of fun stuff to talk about with him, but a couple other things we need to chat about with our listeners here, Fig. We have our growing glossary page. So all the things that we talk about in the show, like in this show, we talk about SEER School and a couple other things. What that is, it's all in there. An E6B, a slide rule.
Yeah.
Even got a picture of it in the glossary.
Oh, nice.
And if someone wants to email us, apparently we had not our email addresses anywhere on the website. We just announced them every week, and people had to go looking hard for us. So what's your email address, Fig?
It's fig at sothereiwas.us or repeat.
Mine's repeat at sothereiwas.us, REPETE. I'm so clever. Another thing we started up in the last couple weeks is our merchandise. We got a merch page, sothereiwas.us/merch. Any cool stuff there worth getting, Fig?
Well, there is. I got a couple hats and some koozies on the way for myself, my wife, and some friends. But there's a lot of stuff on there. You know what I didn't see, though, is the bikini.
Oh, it's there. You got to go to page 2.
I didn't go to page 2. Jeez.
Yeah, there's a couple pages worth of stuff. That's how much cool stuff we have. Hats, T-shirts, polos, koozies, you name it. Go look. If you don't see it and you want it, drop one of us a line. Tell us you want it, and I'll see if we can get it in there. And we got some new pilots on Patreon this week.
Yeah.
Scott Christensen and Wayne Batzer. Thank you very much, gents. And John Hall, a.k.a. Sticks. Thank you, Sticks, for stepping up. We appreciate that. When you guys do that, you help us keep the engines running.
Yeah, thanks, gentlemen.
And we've got a sponsor coming back, Factor.
Love Factor. It is so handy, and it's actually, the meals are outstanding.
Super convenient. Meals in 2 minutes or less. We're going to talk more about that during the show. And also thanks again to the Dos Gringos for letting us use their music. But let's talk briefly about our friend KO. He was a Marine ordnanceman in VMA 231. So he was one of the young lads that muscled those 500 and 1,000-pound bombs up underneath the wings of our aircraft, and was always happy to see us come back empty because he didn't want to muscle it back down.
Right. He had a tour in Iraq, a tour in Afghanistan. I guess the tour in Iraq was extended at the last minute.
He said they had the airplanes, the helicopters were all shrink-wrapped, and the blades were folded, ready to get put onto the ships, and no such luck. Unpack them, boys, you're going back in country. So they did that. He had another interesting one that was a lot of fun. He talked about a lot of funny, because he survived. Talked about going to jump school when he had joined the Army Guard right after he left the Marine Corps. Wound up colliding with a guy and surviving.
Yeah, dangled parachute, collapsed parachute. 2 guys, 1 chute, basically. That was terrifying.
I think he said the black hat is what they called their instructors. Came up to him with a bullhorn and said, "Bet you're going to church Sunday, aren't you, Airborne?"
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, I am.
Now and every Sunday. Well, we're yammering on about it. You know what? Let's get him to yammer some for us. Let's get out of the way and listen to KO.
Let's get out of the way.
What's some good advice for anyone flying a helicopter this week?
Repeat, don't sit on the collective.
I wouldn't sit on the collective. Maybe you want to try don't let go of the collective?
Oh. Hey, don't let go of the collective. See, that just shows, first of all, I've only had 1 cup of coffee, and number 2, I don't know anything about helicopters. It's all black magic.
There you go. We're going to get out of the way. Here comes KO.
Thanks a lot. We really appreciated that. I'm just kidding. No, I'm not.
No, he's not.
Well, there I was, crossing the pond, and you could see that I wasn't.
There I was.
Nice. That's how all great aviation tales begin. Welcome to the show. Coming to you from Lee, New Hampshire. I just want a quick announcement. I got to go over to Hanover, New Hampshire this morning for the
Get
first
out of
Friday
here.
Jarhead breakfast.
Oh,
at Lou's
man.
restaurant and bakery. So thank you to Jarrett Burke. Got to meet Gunny personally. What a hoot it was. Fun to connect with Marines and sailors and share some time with them. So that was good. So where's my co-host tonight?
I'm in Kansas City, Kearney, Missouri. Boy, am I glad to be here, and I really apologize, KO, for making you wait. My Zulu calculator was AFU, as am I.
There you go. But we're
no worries,
we're back with KO. He joined us a couple weeks back, and but I just couldn't pull the audio back together. So we're now on a new platform. We're broadcasting live to Rumble, YouTube, and Facebook all at the same time, as well as on StreamYard. So we're going to get solid audio tonight. I can already tell. Things sound great. KO, former Marine Corps ordnanceman, went to college, and some Army first sergeant, master sergeant, talked him into applying to the warrant officer program to fly those airplanes that have moving wings. Those aren't airplanes. He did. And here, it's terrifying, but that's
those
how
are
it goes.
whirling death traps.
Welcome, KO. Thank you for coming back and indulging us.
All right, thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah.
And I just want to say, I'm glad you're out of the closet, bro. You sound so much better. You look better. It's not as creepy as when you were in the closet with all the clothes hanging there and everything. I mean, literally in the closet.
Well, I wanted to stand out, Fig, and apparently I've done that. So
it's kind of an inside joke. The first time KO joined us, he was literally in the closet so that the kids' noise would not bother us.
Right.
So now you're out of the closet. Not that there's anything wrong with that. How is it you became, I guess, interested in aviation? Well, and in the Marine Corps. You enlisted in the Marine Corps. You were 18, 19?
I was 17.
17. All right. Right on.
Yeah. Growing up, my dad was in the Air Force career, and as far back as I could remember, I was obsessed with anything that flew. I just wanted to know more about it. I couldn't know enough about it, but the one little thing that I lacked was academic discipline. So I'm not going to get to flight school without that. And being a young, impressionable in Civil Air Patrol, I thought, well, what's the quickest way I can get out of North Carolina to these exotic places like Okinawa, El Toro? So I enlisted in the Marine Corps. I said I wanted to do something in aviation, and my recruiter suggested aviation ordnance. I said, will that get me out of North Carolina? Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
So then I got my orders. VMA 231, Cherry Point, North Carolina.
Join the Marine Corps and see Eastern North Carolina.
Yeah, a whole 3 hours from where I was from.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy.
Awesome. So what was that like, becoming an ordnanceman? Tell me about the school. How does
where is the school? Where is the tech school?
Yeah, where's the school? What's it like? What do they teach you? What do they teach you not to do?
Well, at the time, the school was in Millington. I think it's since been moved to Pensacola. A lot of basic ordnance types of families, but see, there's several MOSs within the ordnance field, and you really don't know what you're going to get. Everything from squadron level to intermediate level and so on. I really wanted to be on the squadron because I wanted to be near aircraft. So when I found out that I was going to Cherry Point, like an idiot, what does that mean besides North Carolina? I was told that you're going to be on Harriers. Well, what exactly are those?
And who would want to be around those things?
But it was it was a great experience. To an 18-year-old, being trusted and taught to work on these aircraft and to do what we did, it was amazing. And I can tell you, as a teenager, when you load these aircraft, they come back from a sortie, and all the ordnance worked as advertised. I mean, that was something. That really gave you a sense of pride and a sense of accomplishment.
I get that. A little job satisfaction. And I can tell you, having been one of the guys that punches the little button and making that stuff fall off the airplane, coming back without ordnance, you could see the ordnance guys, they were happy about that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it also meant we didn't have to download anything you didn't do.
Right. Well, the Mark 76s weren't too bad because those weighed, full 25 pounds. But when you start getting to Mark 81s, Mark 82s,
83s, CBUs, firebombs, yeah, that was a little more of a challenge. But yeah, I sometimes I would ask myself, are they sure that I should be doing this because being a teenager, are you sure about this?
What are they, nuts? Let an 18-year-old handle high explosives?
KO just said something that triggered a thought, and I want to verbalize this before it escapes. Actually, I'll write it down. Go ahead. Continue. I'll come back.
No, please, Fig. Go ahead, man.
Firebomb. You said firebomb. So we're talking napalm, right?
They didn't call it that. It was the Mark 77. Yeah.
Right. Well, we had, and I know VMA 231 had a empty Mark 77 that we put a door, probably the metal shop manufactured a door on it, and that was our cross country pod that we could put golf clubs or whatever.
Oh yeah. I think we called that a blivet.
A blivet. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. And somebody may or may not have loaded, I don't know, 30 or 40 cases of Australian beer in one of those and brought it back from Australia. However, I just want to go on record as saying there was an airspeed and a G limit when you had the blivet. Do you recall that? Repeat?
Yeah, I do now that you mention it. Yeah. Did we observe that is the question.
Well, so I can tell you there was an airspeed in a G limit, imposed because it was untested, right? We didn't have data on it. So they said, well, don't do more than 3 Gs and don't fly more than 350 knots. Well, I can tell you I operationally checked that sucker to 6 Gs and well over 500 knots, and it worked great. Okay, enough about the blivet. Mark 77 firebomb. Thank you.
Yeah. As far as I was concerned, all the officers and the pilots, when you guys weren't at the squadron or flying, we always thought that you were probably at the O Club having lunch with the SecDef. As far as I was thinking that as I was swabbing the ready room deck.
Yeah, because nobody's around, right? You're like, what? Where are these guys?
Yeah. You guys were enigmas as far as I was concerned.
Well, when the president or vice president wasn't available, we would stoop to the SecDef. But
that confirms the Lance Corporal intelligence there, repeat.
No, that's awesome.
But no, great time. Really grew up there as a corporal, as a CDI or collateral duty inspector. Mm-hmm. I went out to safe an aircraft for flight. And I know that I wasn't following procedure. That's the way I was taught, but it's no excuse. Aircraft comes back and 2 upper chaff buckets are gone. And a big gash in the horizontal stabilizer.
Ooh.
Yeah, I thought.
Okay, so explain what a bucket is, if you would.
Yeah. Okay, a little square buckets, about, I would say, maybe 15 by 15 inches. It's a bucket that houses chaff and flare countermeasures. There's 4 on top of the fuselage, and I believe 4 that were on the bottom. And
the size of a 12-pack if you laid it on its side.
There you go.
Ish,
thank you,
right?
Fig. Yeah, that checks out. So anyway, as an ordnanceman, it was my job to go out and essentially safe all the ordnance equipment that it was safe to fly. I signed it off. That airplane comes back missing 2 upper chaff housings with a gash in the horizontal stabilizer. I thought, man, I'm going to the brig. I can't believe I did that. And I had to go see the gunner. Then the AMO, the maintenance officer, was a Vapor Walsh.
Yeah.
And I felt 2 inches tall that I let him down. And, he knew I felt bad. After letting me sit for a minute, he restored my qualifications. And that just, to me, I never forgot that. The point is that you don't get through life without screwing up. And he could have hammered me, but he didn't. And he saw something in me as a young kid. And that's just something I've always thought about and I've always appreciated.
It was a nice leadership lesson for you, wasn't it?
Oh, wonderful leadership lesson. Thankfully, I was able to pay that forward years later.
There you go. I was going to ask you if you got that chance. So
I did. Years later as a flight instructor teaching the Blackhawk course down at Fort Rucker, Port Novacell.
As of today, right?
Yep. No, Novacell was April.
Oh, was it April? Okay.
All right. Yeah, Fort Bragg is June 2nd, is now Fort Liberty.
Because,
Yeah, but
can't follow traditions. Sorry.
Right. So
I relinquished my soapbox. So, any close calls, any funny stuff you ever saw in ordnance? Any hair-raising moments?
Well, I'm really trying to recall specifically in ordnance. Truth be told, I was more afraid of my NCOs really than anything technical.
Nice.
I do recall that I was on the flight deck on the USS Wasp. This was the 26 Mu, about 96. And one of our pilots, Major Woodmansey,
Woody.
was his name.
Yeah.
Yep.
He was coming into land. He was hovering, and we heard it get quiet, but then the engine came back.
What?
And I just recall that he was, by the grace of God, he was able to land. Supposedly, the tech reps came out, and they couldn't figure out what happened. But, you know, as an ordnanceman, as a young Lance Corporal, they don't really debrief me on those things. But I just remember what I saw, and it was a reminder that this is an unforgiving business we're in.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
Jeez.
That's terrifying. I'm glad. I don't think I'd ever heard that story. We
Nope.
Get Woody on and ask him about that.
Yeah.
But our OIC for that debt was Major Horn at the time, Matty.
Okay.
Another
Yep.
another great guy. So, you know, these guys were 10 feet tall as far as I was concerned.
Do you want to explain what there's an acronym, and it's not on our glossary. We probably ought to put it there. IYOYAS.
Okay. Well, may my
see that on the door of the ordnance shops all the time.
May my English professor forgive me for this. If you ain't ordnance, you ain't shit. EOS.
Right. So I used to have fun with the guys.
Don't analyze that too much.
No, right? I used to have fun with the guys in ordnance at 223. So if you are not ordnance, you are not shit. So if you are an ordnance, you are shit. No, sir. Damn it.
I was never asked to pass a literature test to be an ordnanceman. That just never came up.
No double negatives, lads.
I think I asked you this before, KO, but I'm going to ask it again. You know, the guys, all the Marines that were in our ordnance shop in 223, they had one thing in common, and nobody was a pipsqueak. Everybody looked like they spent a couple hours in the gym every day.
Oh, yeah.
Was that you?
Yeah. That was, no, I didn't tell you that, but that checks out because your first debt, when you're hand loading all the ordnance, you realize you need to go to the gym.
Okay.
So, yeah, that checks out. I think that was a common denominator.
How many of you were loading a 500-pound bomb?
Yeah.
Oh, 4 for the 500-pounders, which weren't so bad. But when you were getting to the 1,000-pounders, that got a little hairy. You really had to coordinate.
4 of you?
Oh, 4 of us. But you got to understand, on the hernia bar, there's not room for 4 people to get a full grip. So you kind of had to do the best you could.
Jeez.
So you can understand why we had a problem, why we were aggravated when you guys came back with ordnance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know, all this time I thought it was just magic. I thought you guys rolled those out there on some nice rack, and the rack just lifted them up.
And
you
hydraulically
guys
lifted
put
it
the
up
pins
into
in and
place,
pulled
and
the.
you just
Yeah, I just
switch,
thought it was
right?
magic.
Yeah, that's how it works.
No, well, we had a SATS load or a little bomb lift, but usually we were the bomb lift. But
Yeah.
that's, as they say, that was a peasant joke that you're too rich to understand.
Yes. I was saying all that in jest because I actually got to do that one day under there was much chagrin from the gunny an ordnance shop, but I was like, I want to do this. I want you guys to tell me what to do. I want to be part of this. And I'm like, yeah, I don't think this is a good idea. Yeah. I did it one time, and I got, okay, thank you, boys. That's all I needed to see. I got it. I know how this works.
Yeah. But, you know, at the same time, for someone like myself with, like I said, 0 academic discipline, I wanted to see the world. I just wanted to get out and do all those things I've been reading about and being here airplanes. That was a wonderful experience. And that's something that I wouldn't trade. But I left the Marine Corps in 98 and off to college. So my wife and I were both working, going to school full time. And it was in my junior year, and it was a retired Army statistics class that mentioned the Army Warrant Officer program. And I kind of thought he was messing with me because I hadn't finished my degree. But just in case he wasn't, I marched down to the nearest recruiter's office that afternoon, and it worked out phenomenally. But on a side note, while I was in college, I joined the Army Reserve because there was a Army Reserve unit close by, and fortunately, it was a rigger unit, so I got to go on jump status. So I got to jump out of perfectly good airplanes every other drill.
There's just something.
So he
There's
flies
this-
helicopters and jumps out of airplanes.
David
And,
KO, there's just something not right with all that you just said. The part about jumping out of perfectly. Now you say it was a rigger unit, so you were
Yeah.
actually para-riggers.
Right. Air delivery specialist. So
Yes.
we would truss up, rig up the equipment, push it out, and jump out with it. So
I just
it
terrified.
was great times.
I know there's nothing right. There's just nothing right about any of that. I'm glad you think. He's like, yeah. Just jump out. You push it out, and then you jump out.
Yeah.
No, who does that?
I never rode an ejection seat, so you guys have that. I think that's insane.
Whoa,
But
slow down. I never rode it. I just sat on it.
I rode in.
I
Thank the
still
Lord,
think that's
I never-
insane, guys.
Yeah.
But
Well.
no, it was but it was a great time. I just said just about a year and a half on jump status, and then the Army was fortunately desperate for pilots, so I got picked up for that. And
Well, I think the Army was lucky at that point. They got you.
uh,
Hold on. Let's back up. How many jumps?
I think a total about 15 jumps outside jump school. In jump school, you do the 5 qualifying,
Yeah.
and
So over 20 ish.
roughly, yeah.
So you're in cat lives. You're all used up right now. So I'd be really careful from here on out.
Well, in jump school, I had a little incident. I believe it was my 3rd jump where,
You were gonna say that.
well, we were jumping 2 doors the first time doing that, and another jumper and I had collided.
Hold on.
And our
Hold on. I want you to explain 2 doors. I know what you're talking about.
Okay.
Let's talk
okay,
about that.
when you look at the back of an airplane, there are 2 paratroop doors on either side. And when you hear jumping 2 doors, that means you're staggering left, right. You're deploying paratroopers out both doors, which timing is everything. Because if you time that wrong, 2 jumpers can meet in flight, and that's not good.
Were you jumping out of a C-17 or C-130 or?
This was a C-130,
Okay.
and
So
so
that's,
our shoot.
that's like jumping off the really high dive at the same time as you landed on the guy in the water, right? I mean,
Well,
not good.
I was too dumb to quit. Yeah.
how do you get is it the wake of the aircraft that sucks you guys together if you're going out opposite sides of the airplane? How's that work?
Yeah, in the slipstream if you're not. But for my incident, our chutes were deployed and we had collided. My chute wrapped around his. My chute collapsed. And they would tell us in pre-jump that a T-10 Charlie parachute will carry 2 combat-loaded jumpers to the ground. And that's something that it was all theory and academic, something that, yeah, sounds good, but you don't want to test it. But son of a bitch, it was true.
Nobody wants to test that. So you guys tangled up and you rode one parachute down.
We rode one parachute down.
You rode his parachute down because
rode
you
his
basically
parachute down.
Tangled yours and effed yours up.
So we landed, and I'm laying on my back. I'm making sure that all my parts and pieces are still there, that it works. And one of the airborne instructors, whom we refer to as Black Hats, or Sergeant Airborne, comes over with that damn bullhorn he always carried and said, "I bet you're going to church on Sunday. Hi, Airborne."
In every Sunday.
I got 2 questions. What altitude were you guys jumping out at? Probably pretty low. You remember?
Training, we were probably jumping
1,500
1,000 feet, which is
that-
relatively high.
Okay.
For,
Okay, I figured it was somewhere in there. Okay, then the second question is, was there any conversation before impact?
after impact, there was some conversation.
But there wasn't any. Okay, so his chute tangled
Is
up
there
with
any
yours,
sign
collapsed
language?
yours. Where? I mean, were you close together? Were you within feet of each other before?
We were
you
within
looking
feet
at
of each other.
Going, oh shit, this is bad type thing.
We were looking each other's eyes. We were within feet of each other. And for a second, I thought about deploying my reserve. But then the thought of, well, if that reserve deploys, it could deflate the main chute that's keeping us alive. So I decided to hold off on that. And
That's bad on the good bad scale.
well, he looked at me and said he was sorry, and I said, "Not half the sorry you're going to be when we get down, you bitch." I mean, I said some things I regretted, but
Well, hey, it might have been it. So yeah, right. You were basically, if I live through this, you're going to get it.
well, once we landed and all my parts worked, all thoughts of violence just went away. I was just happy to be alive and still functioning. So,
Well, I'm glad it worked out that way, KO.
me too, Fig. Me too.
I really am.
Well, my thought
But,
would be that you could could you not break away from him and deploy your chute separately from him?
No, because our suspension lines had entangled, so we weren't going anywhere except down.
Yeah, you were going down. That's true.
Yeah. So
Gravity's
But-
a bitch.
yes, she is. So I had a good time, but I mean, as crazy as it sounds, I really had a good time on Jump Status. Just something to break up the monotony of going to school and working full time.
Yeah, I get it.
So I mean, you guys are in the Guard. Yeah. So when I got word that I got picked up for flight school, I thought, this got to be a mistake. Have they really read my packet? I was a Marine. In fact, I called an Air Force Reserve recruiter after I got out to see if I could continue to serve that way. And the recruiter actually told me, as a former Marine, I was damaged goods. Those are the words he used.
Are you kidding me?
He told me that straight on the phone.
Guy
Not
was
sure
a
he would have said
douche.
that to my face, but he told me that on the phone.
That guy was a douche. You don't want anything to do with the Air Force Reserve, I'll tell you that.
Hell, it all worked out, Fig. But,
Hey, to the Air Force Reserve brothers and sisters that are out there, I'm just poking the bear here, okay? So don't get all crazy.
That's what we do here. By the
Yeah.
way, that's Fig at sothereiwas.us.
I can speak ill of the Air Force because I spent half of my military
'Cause
career.
you
I
are
finished
one,
my military career in the Guard, Air Guard. All right, so and I butted heads with those sons of bitches every day too. It's okay. We got through it.
it's
got through it.
okay.
It's okay.
Yeah, but
So after that, you got talked into going into flight school.
yeah. So we had started out.
Tell me about that.
Well, started out warrant officer candidate school, 6 week. I guess similar to OCS, just a lot of stress, a lot of time management. It was a good experience, and it does prepare you because we know aviation is detail oriented, but. So on to flight school, into a lot of academics before you step inside of an aircraft. And first aircraft in primary training was a TH-67 or the Bell 206, pretty common helicopter. I think the Navy uses that as well.
called
The
Jet Ranger,
TH-55,
right?
I think you guys call it, or the 57.
The Jet
But,
Ranger.
Jet Ranger, right?
Yeah, the Bell Jet
Yeah.
Ranger. What was fortunate, when I was going through flight school, all of our instructors were Vietnam veterans. So just the experience that these guys brought to the table, it was such a blessing because these guys wrote the book on it. And it was just, I was in awe to be in the same room as these guys.
Right.
But so in primary, where you just learned how to physically fly the aircraft, I was one of the first guys in my class to actually master hovering. And I use master with air quotes, but that's, I got really cocky. I got a little too cocky. So when we moved on to instruments, and I realized when I started that, my confidence was stupidly inflated, and that put me back in my place. So my instructor, God bless him, he really tried, but he couldn't understand why I couldn't understand it. It was like someone with a PhD teaching kindergarten.
Yeah, right. I like that. He couldn't understand that I couldn't understand.
No. I every day it's like not being able to swim, but you're thrown in the deep end. You have to be pulled out. But I was moved to another instructor, and oh my God, just the third eye opened, and somehow I was able to figure this out.
Well, everybody has different teaching and learning style. You just needed to get paired up with the right style.
Absolutely. So after instruments, you had basic combat skills where you can learn to actually employ the helicopter. In this case, it was the OH-58, which is the military version of the Jet Ranger, into a tactical environment. So we learned how to scout from the air using the old 1 over 50,000th map, a ruler, and an E6B.
Nice.
I doubt I could do that now, but
No. There's no way I could. There's no way I could.
yeah. But you know, the
E6B
batteries
is
will never die on that
basically
thing.
A round slide rule,
Yeah.
Yeah.
for lack
Yeah.
of a better. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
that's
just gave my old one away not too long ago.
They're
it
actually
was
pretty neat pieces of gear. They work so well. Once you learn how to use one,
yeah.
they're super efficient, and it's a lot easier than punching numbers in a calculator type.
You can spill coffee on it and it's still going to work.
That's right.
Right.
You don't have to worry about it shorting out. You don't need to recharge it. It always works.
Yeah.
We had that problem
Yeah.
a lot in Harriers, didn't we, Fig? Spilling
Yes.
coffee out, or and then the catering would keep.
Yeah, never. Not one
Not so
time
much.
did I.
I had that problem. Never.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember having to clean up a few cockpits from you guys. I'm not going to drop any names on that, but yeah.
Whoa, wait. What do you mean clean up a cockpit? I don't understand. Well, wait, like from food or from?
Yeah, from food a couple times. In fact,
Who the hell's got time to?
Pre-digested food, or
yeah. Well, I'll say this: one pilot, a Harrier pilot, who I'm not going to name. I tried to joke with him about he owed his ordnance a 6-pack of beer because he left the master arm switch on. And,
shit.
Well, I thought it was a joke. That's what but he didn't take it as a joke, and that put me back in my place.
So it wasn't on. You were just saying that.
No, it was. But then he went on to remind me of all the mistakes that ordnance has made and how our shop needs to look into ourselves. Yeah, it wasn't pretty.
Wow.
Lighten up, Francis.
Right?
Wow.
Well, I scurried away, and
okay. All right. Let's not go there. Right? Okay. I want to say one thing. Master arm switch is kind of a big damn deal. That's all I'm saying about that.
Yeah.
Well,
when you come back with that still on, anything can happen.
Yeah. Okay. Enough about that.
Well,
all right.
Anyway.
Enough about that. Let's talk about flying, and let's talk about you flying in particular.
How long did it take you to get your wings, and then what'd you do after that?
About a year and a half total. At the end of flying portion, you have what's called a basic course, which at the time that was professional development, your SEER training, and aircraft selection. Okay. So
did you
have a quick SEER?
Did you guys go to an off-site location for SEER training, or did you do it all right there?
They had it all right there.
Okay.
At good old South Alabama.
I think we've mentioned it before, but it's SEER, S-E-R-E, survival, escape, resistance, and survival, evasion, resistance, and escape.
Boom.
Yep.
Well done, sir. Well done.
Trying to hit
you just
all
learn
these
that you
as we go.
You just don't want to be a prisoner of war is what the take out of that. But everyone in our class, it happened to, we all got the aircraft of choice. So how they did that was they say, okay, we've got, say, 10 Blackhawks, 10 Chinooks, 5 Apaches, 5 58s, and guy at the top of the class, you've got the highest GPA, what do you want? And then so on and so on. And now the next day you're going to get your assignment because they don't want guys picking airframes based on duty stations. I can understand that. So I had a choice of Korea or Fort Drum, and I don't like the cold. So Korea was a 1-year tour. Fort Drum, New York was 3 years with probably a Korea hat on.
Hey.
And I decided to go to Korea.
Okay.
Yeah. Hint, it gets really cold in Korea. Just saying.
Yeah. But
and that 1 year was unaccompanied.
It actually turned out to be 15 months. Because of the invasion of Iraq, we were extended.
Oh, great.
Okay. So, but worst thing, there's worse places to be extended.
Can I make an assumption that
please?
There was a detailed discussion about all the options with Mrs. KO?
There was, and thankfully, she is as tough and understanding as they come. My father-in-law served in Vietnam as a retired airline captain, so she understands.
So, yes, that segues into this point. None of us could do the things we do if we didn't have great support from home.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. And if only that was the worst news. But I signed into Fort Bragg, signed into the Medevac, the 57th Medical Company, the original dust off, as it's called. And I was told, don't unpack. And a month later, I was on my way to Iraq to meet up with the company at Camp Spiker.
So you bypassed Korea?
I left Korea after 15 months.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I signed into the rear detachment at Fort Bragg, and then on my way to Iraq.
You didn't get a chance to let the ink dry, or probably your skivvies dry, but get them home, get them washed, and they're still wet and time to go.
Nope. Be flexible. So, but I got there in October of 2003, and we were supposed to come home in March, which, all right, that's not the worst thing in the world. And we were in Kuwait. We were 4 days from coming home. All of our helicopters are shrink wrapped, blades folded, ready to push on the boat. When the Anbar province blew up with all the insurgent activity, we got extended for 3 months.
That had to be a big kick in the junk for morale.
Yeah, it was. But but you also realize what we were doing was important, and as much as it was, it's, hey man, it's time to stop feeling sorry for yourself. There's guys out there that need you. So,
Hey, I might have missed it. Did you say what aircraft you were flying?
yeah, UH-60 Blackhawk.
60 Blackhawks. Okay. All right. Just making sure.
Yeah, that was a pretty intense deployment. And this goes back to when I talk about leadership and things that you never forget. My very first mission, it was another downed Blackhawk. We don't know what downed it, but we've got to get to the crew. The radios sounded like tobacco auctions. You're trying to pick out what's important to you. And crazy times. Well, thankfully, we got the crew. We got everyone out of there. And afterwards, my crew chief comes up to me, puts his arm on my shoulder and said, "You did good, sir." And I thought, wow, if only you knew how scared shitless I was.
Nice. Nice. Okay. Well, up to now, we've talked about where you've gotten and how you've gotten there. And I think now we want to find out some of the crazy flying that you got to do. So let me take just a couple minutes to talk about some of the people that help make this show possible for everybody. Folks, you can help us by patronizing the sponsors. If you can't join us at patreon.com, patronize the sponsors and encourage them to help bringing this show to you. Hey, Fig, have you heard about Factor? It's America's #1 ready-to-eat meal kit. They deliver these amazing meals straight to your door.
Oh, really? That could be a game changer for us pilots, constantly on the go and all.
Absolutely. And during the prime spring season, when we need convenient meals to fuel us for our flights, Factor can be a lifesaver. No more worrying about finding wholesome food when we're in a hurry.
I couldn't agree more. With Factor, we can skip the grocery store, skip the chopping, the prepping, and have so much time. Just imagine the convenience of having ready-to-eat meals.
And the best part is that their meals are fresh, never frozen, and ready in just 2 minutes. No need to sacrifice taste or quality when we're pressed for time.
That's true. Plus, they offer different options to cater to our dietary needs and goals. If we're watching our calorie intake, they have calorie smart meals with around or less than 550 calories per serving.
And for those days when we need an extra boost of energy, their Protein Plus meals with 30 grams of protein or more per serving will come in handy. It's perfect for keeping us alert and focused during our flights.
Absolutely, repeat. With Factor's diverse menu, we don't get bored either. They have options that fit different lifestyles, including keto, vegan, plus veggie and more. It's like having a personal chef.
Don't forget the add-ons. We can supplement our meals with breakfast items like their delicious apple cinnamon pancakes or replenish our snack supply with their assortment of 45 plus options.
That sounds like a dream come true. Not only is Factor a convenient choice, but it's also a sustainable one. They offset their delivery emissions, source renewable electricity, and even offer sustainably sourced seafood in their meals.
Oh, that's fantastic to hear. So let's head to factormeals.com/SoThereIWas50 and use the code SoThereIWas50 to get 50% off our first box. It's time for us to enjoy delicious meals without the hassle.
I'm with you, repeat. Code SoThereIWas50 at factormeals.com/SoThereIWas50 for 50% off your first box. Let's savor every bite and keep soaring through the skies with full bellies.
Cheers to that, Fig. Here's to fueling up, saving time, and conquering the skies with Factor by our side. So you find yourself over in Iraq.
Yeah.
People are now you're not just shooting down range. People are shooting back. And
Absolutely.
Yeah. What was that like?
It was a steep learning curve because up to that point, everything was academic. And little quick story that reminds you of where you're at is when I'd first gotten there, I was just doing administrative things because the unit was so busy, they didn't have time to do the progression and the local air orientation. So one of the medics asked me if I could go with him to the outer perimeter because they'd purchased a giant generator in the city of Tikrit. So sure. So he and I drive down there and we see this thing come up. It's this giant generator on a Mercedes flatbed. And the interpreter is there and they're having a conversation. I'm just standing there. I don't know why other than just to stand there. And the sergeant says, "Well, sir, I need you to get in the truck with them." And I look at him. I said, Are you just having fun with me because I'm the new guy?
Right.
And he said, "No." He says, "No, really, sir. I need you to do that." And I said, I thought the interpreter was going to do this. Well, he's got to stay here. Why would he do it? Okay. Well, I'm thinking they probably have enough explosives in this thing to put a dent in the world, and I'm supposed to ride in the truck with these guys. So I looked at the interpreter. I said, hey, I need you to translate something for me. And I pulled the slide back on my M9 to make sure I had a round in there. And I said, tell these guys that if they deviate from the route, I probably can't drop them all, but I'll get an A for effort. And I'm not sure they were convinced because I have no idea how that translated from English to Arabic. But everyone was well behaved, thankfully.
I like that story. Yeah. And I'm glad they were well behaved.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah. It was intense.
How long a ride was that?
About 20 minutes.
Okay. Daytime or nighttime?
It was daytime.
Great. And was there traffic? A lot of traffic? Like stop and
No,
go?
this was really inside Camp Spiker. So it was a really big outer perimeter. So thankfully we weren't riding downtown. But as I'm in the truck, I'm thinking, well, I really hope they were properly vetted.
Right. You're going to be the first one to a terrorist attack.
Yeah, either I'll know or I won't.
Right.
You'll know for a split second. Oh,
yeah. Damn it. Probably be my last words, but
worked out.
But yeah, me too. So, but it was as a medevac company, we were pretty busy, and understand that the unit that I was in had already been in country 8 months, and here I show up as a brand new pilot, and these guys are just the consummate professionals, and I was just trying to live up to that. But after one particular mission, it was about a 02 local, 0 illumination. We get a 9-line request, which is a medevac request. And as we're landing on this little dust strip, the guy I was flying with, I'm in the left seat. He's a pilot in command. And there's a tailwind. And I told him, I said, hey, there's a tailwind. Yeah, Roger. Okay, well, he knows what he's doing because he's been here. Well, about 60 feet off the ground, that's when we were completely enveloped in the dust. And I lost all visual references. It's dust land, brownout, or degraded visual environment. And once that happened, I said, we should go around. And I said, I got it. Okay. Well, when we hit the ground, we were left wheel low and we started sliding. So it was long enough to where I thought I locked my harness because I thought we were going to roll. And it seemed forever, but in reality, it was probably about 3 seconds. And that brought me back in the moment. So I pulled both engines offline. He managed to keep the aircraft upright. And I think looking back that we were in shock because we got out of the aircraft. Everybody okay? We kind of went over it with flashlights and we talked amongst ourselves if everybody's comfortable flying it back. And we flew it back. And I don't think the commander really got the full picture on what happened. And they gave us another aircraft. And by this time, when I got in the spare aircraft to finish our first up shift, I remember my knees were shaking. But hey, if these guys are doing it, I'm doing it. And the next morning when the sun came up and we saw the actual extent of the damage on that aircraft, we realized that flying it back probably wasn't the world's best decision.
What kind of damage?
Oh, the left strut was bent in. A good portion of the stabilator in the back was gone. It looked like some airframe crinkling. It was we really had no business flying that aircraft back the way we did.
What?
So,
well, what would have been your other options? Call for another bird to pick you up and.
Yeah, most likely. Okay. But again, in a situation like that, you convince yourself it's not as bad as it is. And we all decided we didn't want to spend the night out in Indian country either. So that was the option. And the commander at the time, I'm really glad. Another good example of leadership is our post-accident evaluation was the following night, and we were back on the schedule. And if I had time to really think about what happened and what could have happened, I don't know if I would have climbed back into another aircraft, to be honest.
Oh,
wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that was a good call then. Get your ass back out there, right?
Right on the horse.
But again, it's just to his leadership. I mean, God bless that man. But thankfully, we finished the deployment. Well, we thought we were finished. Then we got sent back in for 3 months.
Good time.
Yeah. And we were blessed to get through with everybody and everything. But we knew we were going back in 2005.
Wow, so that's pretty quick turnaround time.
Yeah, but in those days, that was true across the board. I mean, when you were there, you knew if you were staying in the military, you were rotating back. The question wasn't if, but when.
Yeah, 18 months in the bucket was the Air Guard cycle. Every 18 months, we were back in the rotation.
Yep.
So I don't know what it was like for you guys.
Well, we got a couple more months. We got about 3 more months stateside because of our extension. So that turned out to be a blessing. But even back in the States, we were pulling medevac coverage at the Mountain Ranger Camp in Dahlonega and coverage on Fort Bragg. So it wasn't really time off, but it was all geared toward getting ready for the next deployment. And on that next one, that was 2005, 2006, was at Balad Air Base. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with that.
I've been to Balad multiple times. Yeah, I know where it is.
That was a pretty busy time, too.
North side. That's just the north side of Iraq, right?
Yeah, it's between Tikrit and Baghdad, north of Baghdad.
Yeah, no, that's what I meant, Baghdad. Yeah, it's right in between. It's just north of Baghdad.
Yeah.
Yeah. You had F-16s there, right?
Right.
Heedless, yeah.
Yeah, F-16s. And, you're sitting in your hooch watching a movie. You hear the afterburner take off. Just pause it because now his wingman's going to be right behind him.
Right?
Yeah. So, the one thing that really stuck out about that rotation, we had on a 9-line request, we launched 2 ships by this point. You had Lead and Chase. And on this particular time, Chase had to pick up the Rams team. That's an acronym, which I don't remember what it stood for, but it was a team of firefighters whose specialty is cutting guys out of mangled vehicles, because that's what you're going to see with a lot of these IEDs. We got a call for a vehicle rollover on the MSR Tampa, the main military supply route. So I pick up the Rams team. Lead gets to the site, and it's a contracting vehicle, but it's turned over. The driver's trapped inside. And what's interesting is the security was one lone Iraqi policeman that when he saw the 2 medevac birds show up, he just drove off. So
what?
Got this. Not a problem.
Yeah. Well, we the truth is we didn't, because we're sitting on the ground and talking amongst the lead ship, and some of the villagers were coming out, and we decided that we need to get some over the horizon comms here because everything was line of sight. So I'm circling, and some of these villagers are coming out. It looks like they're throwing rocks. And
so just to be clear here, what you're talking about is your radio only goes a few miles.
Correct.
Miles.
Yeah, it was all line of sight.
Altitude, so their line of sight was further back to the camp to get help. Okay.
Yeah. So at this point, I'm putting out a call on the radio for some gunship support, and these villagers, they're all pretty brazen. I mean, I'm sure some of them are curious, but some of them are becoming hostile. And I'm attempt to do a diving run to make them think I've got guns, which we don't. My crew chief had an M4, and I had briefed him that, hey, if they don't get it by this point, I'm going to have you fire a warning shot. If they don't get it by that point, just remember, our job is to protect our sister ship, and that's what we have to do. And that's when 5 Apaches show up, and you're about to get in a street fight, then 5 of your big brothers show up. So that was a beautiful sight. I take back some of what I said about Apache drivers.
Right. We all flipped.
Let me ask, when you were doing these simulated gun runs, did you have a big red and white target with perpendicular lines on it?
I sure did.
Red cross. Yeah.
I helped. All we had was harsh looks and harsh language. Yeah.
That they didn't understand, by the way.
No, but they did know that we had no combat multiplying weapons. So, so the Apache shows up on station. I briefed those guys up, and again, great sight. It was just probably one of the greatest feelings of relief I can recall. And one of them does a low dry pass, and it was Moses parting the Red Sea. I mean, these guys know what the Apache is, and I think it made them rethink what they were about to do. And the Apache lead asked me, he said, well, hey, Dustoff, if you still think they're too close to your sister ship, we could put some rounds their way. I said, no, hold off, guys. I think they got the message. But while this is going on, my tactical operations center is calling me, and I was a little coarse because, you got your hands full at a moment like this. I don't think that my boss knew what was going on. So as soon as they extract the driver, we get him to the hospital. I get back to our area, I shut down, and my platoon commander comes up to have a few words with me. But at this point, I'm coming down from all the adrenaline. So as he's yelling at me, he really sounds like Charlie Brown's teacher. I really don't understand a word that he's saying, but I noticed that he's got a water bottle in his hand, and I thought, shit, I'm thirsty. So as he's yelling at me, I just took the bottle out of his hand and chugged it. He looks at me, and I said, "I'm sorry, sir. What were you saying?"
Yeah. What was that last part?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we laugh about that later, but I assured him, I say, hey, I wasn't trying to establish a power dynamic. I was just really thirsty.
Right.
Even though I did establish one.
No.
Well, but hey, sometimes an ass chewing's required by law. It's nothing personal, just business.
Yeah. We all get that. That's fine. That's a good story. Wow.
So
while we're right there, let me ask you this,
Yeah.
because I know how it went for me. So you come down off that adrenaline that you had, and did you, is that when you get the shakes, and then you just feel like you can't keep your eyes open anymore, type thing, and you need like a power nap, or how did it affect you? After a mission like that, where you were all keyed up, and then there was a lot of adrenaline involved.
I just remember having to sit, and it was just after the adrenaline came down, like you said, it was fatigue. It was just really
Like massive fatigue.
Yeah, you're just sitting there, and then you really play back of what could have happened, what did happen. It's like, man, that could have easily gone the other way.
Yeah, the human mind is funny like that too. You get into any, be it a car accident or anything that's an adrenaline pump, the mind goes back to that and relives it over and over again until it processes it, and then it eventually fades away. It's a strange but interesting phenomenon.
Yeah. So it was a pretty intense time. But again, I was blessed to do it, and I tell people the real work is done by the crew chiefs and the medics. I can't say enough about those folks. God bless them. I've seen them do some amazing things.
Right. Yeah.
Did we establish, and I think we did, let's just make sure, I think you and I had a little overlap at Bagram.
Yeah. I was there from December of 2008 to December of 2009.
Yeah. Okay. So I was there August through October of 2009. That was my first time there. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I think you were Chrome on the radio.
Yeah. Well, it depends on the mission, but Chrome was a lot of them. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I told you my B hut, my plywood, house was right next to the flight line. I mean, you couldn't get. Yeah. So
that's where crew rest happens, right?
Yes, lots of crew rest. The best crew rest ever.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
In 90-second increments, right?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
24/7 air operations. You had F-16s, burner takeoffs. We had F-15s there, F-15Es. Of course, you had the H-60 guys bringing the hospital was just north of our little compound there, and so the helo pad where they would come in was right there. And then at the time there was like 4 or maybe 6 Navy EA6s parked on the
EA6s,
ramp, and they would come into the break and go full power with their boards out just to make a lot of noise. Oh, geez. They were the loudest thing in town.
I swear the EA6 was louder than the Harrier.
It was absolutely.
Yeah, I could agree with that. And I don't know if you guys had this, but in Bagram, by this time, I was with the 101st flying. I was in an air assault unit. There was the controllers there. The air traffic controllers were civilian, but they were Air Force trained. And in a lot of ways, they didn't know how to deal with helicopters. And there was some problems. There was one particular controller that, man, I swear an Army aviator broke her heart because
she hated Army guys.
Well, she was even cutesy when the Russians came in, but once she heard one of our call signs, boy, she spring loaded to the bitch position.
Oh yeah. That's a show title repeat.
Yeah, but
loaded the bitch.
Yeah, she was. You were holding on the right base until you called fuel critical. In fact, one time in particular, I need you to hold on right base. I've got a C-17 on a 20-mile final.
20-mile final. Yeah.
Well, yeah. In fact, there was one where I'm flying with someone that outranks me. I'm the pilot in command. I asked for a turnout north of the tower. She tells me avoid overfly the FOD vehicles. I do exactly. Then she gets on with my call sign. What are you doing? I said, ma'am, I'm doing exactly as you instructed. Mark tapes. And as soon as I said that, the gentleman I'm flying with keys the mic and said, no one likes you, bitch.
It could be another show title.
Well, I looked over at him. I said, thanks for that. Now you think she just marked tapes. You think I can follow through with this?
You think so? Oh, God.
Well, it wasn't your voice.
Well, needless to say, we didn't hear anything more, so maybe this was mutually assured destruction. I don't know. But, yeah, they were tons of fun. So it was it could be difficult. I think, in fact, our brigade and higher had to get involved with this because it was becoming dangerous.
How about this? Sharona.
Fob
Sharona.
Sharona. Oh, so,
yeah. I know this wasn't in 2009, but in 2010, 2011, when I went back, there was a controller that worked at Sharona that everybody was talking about. Nobody knew what she looked like, but her voice, right? Her voice was just insanely sexual.
Okay. So you
don't meet your hero
operator for
don't
a controller.
Do it. You'll be disappointed, Fig.
What? So no. So so everybody's talking about her, and I'm like, everybody. She weighs 400 pounds. She's 5'2" and weighs 400 pounds. No way. She's so on this one particular night, because we only went in another night because it was kind of in a shitty neighborhood, so to speak.
Yeah.
We were doing engine run and offload, and I said, okay. Told the co-pilot, says, you got the brakes, you got it, you got the jet, you got everything. I'm going to go. I had a digital camera. I'm going to go get a picture of. So I said to her, I said, hey, shoot me a IR strobe from your tower. I'll see where you are. And of course, I got NVGs on. I was like, oh, shit, it's right here. Okay, I'll be right back. Thinking I'm going to get a picture and I'm going to show everybody she's a gargoyle, right? And so I get off the airplane and I'm running. It's pitch black. Of course, I was on NVGs. My eyes are all screwed up anyway. Running. And then I realized I've been running so far that I can't hear the airplane engines anymore. Uh-oh. And I'm looking at my watch. And I'm like, I don't know how long am I running? And so and by the way, I'm running past helicopter revetment, startling people, and I'm starting to
running
think
through minefields.
No, I'm starting to think I'm going to get shot. Somebody's going to think I'm coming through the wire or something. So I think, okay, this is bad. This is bad idea. I got to go back. So I go back. Of course, the airplane's buttoned up. There's an Army general sitting on the bunk. He hands me the coin when I get on. He goes, oh, yeah, like, how long you guys been done? We've been done 10 minutes, dude. We were wondering where the F you were. All right. So fast forward. Did you get a picture? No, I didn't get a picture. I don't know where the hell this thing is. So fast forward like 4 days later, we're there at Sharona. And we're there in the wee hours. And while we're there doing the engine run and offload, it starts getting light. And it's the first time I've been there where I can see shit. So I'm pointing in the direction that I ran. And as it's getting lighter and lighter, and I can see more and more, my heart sank. Because I saw where I ran. I ran down this little trail that was a 30 or 40 foot drop off to the left. Nothing but jagged rock. I mean, how I didn't die that night for being a dumbass. It wasn't my time. I ran not once, but twice, back and forth, down this little shitty trail with a drop off on one side.
You were a man on a mission, Fig.
Yeah, and I failed, but I lived.
We've proved that before, though, right? I mean, we talked about Nacho before. When it's not your time, it's not your time.
It wasn't my time, bro.
Deck at 500.
And I probably would have died. I just would have been mangled up and deformed, and broke everything, and probably lost my teeth.
Probably a new call sign.
Yeah, probably been Commander Dumbass.
Right on. At the risk of extending it and going sort of in the same place, I actually heard this working the ASAP one time. So, Aviation Safety Action Program. True story. Swear to God, I heard this with my own ears. But we had to put our phones down to prove we weren't recording.
All right.
There had been an altitude deviation, and the FAA had to go and find the tapes and pull the tapes and listen and see what happened and all. And while he was listening, he goes, "Oh, I want you to hear this, but everything down." I go, okay. And it was let's pick a center that it wasn't So it was Seattle Center. Seattle
Center it was.
United checking in at 320. Roger, United 325. Hey, you got time for a question? Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, that controller on the previous frequency, on a scale of 1 to 10. Without missing a beat, the controller goes, on a scale, about 285.
Okay. That's great.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. I needed that. That was nice.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
But I swear to God, heard it with my own
Nice.
ears. Not a BS story. It really happened. So,
That's awesome.
All right. So let's get back to why we're here, though, is all the cool and scary crap that you did, KO. You're over there in Iraq, did some medevacs. I didn't ask this before, but did you have any evacs where you were particularly satisfied or particularly disappointed? One that went one way or the other based on who you picked up and what you were doing. I mean, people think of medevac, they go back to the 1970s and MASH and, Gurney's exterior and that kind of stuff. Paint us a picture. What was that like doing medevac and guys bleeding out or trying to bleed out and corpsmen saving them? You alluded to it a little bit, but.
Well, it was really, looking back on it, it was emotionally taxing. And everyone had their own way of dealing with it. And one of the mistakes that I made is I brought in an American who was wounded pretty bad. And I made the mistake of later on calling up to the cache to see the combat support hospital to find out about him. And I was told that he had passed about 20 minutes prior to my phone call. So at that point, I started to second guess everything I did. If I should have done this, I should. But in reality, there was nothing we could have done. The crew, we did everything that we could have done, everything that could have been done, we did do. And thinking about it, it was, all right, that's just my own damn vanity to think that I could have changed any outcome. But, after that, I really didn't want to know their names. I really didn't want to know what happened to them. Just for my own emotional well-being, it said, hey, as a crew, we did everything we possibly could have done. And that was it. No, I know one particular, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Just saying, I get that. Things become overwhelming. You have to tune them out. Turn off the news sometimes. You just have to.
Yeah, the medics are whom I really, and crew chiefs especially too, who I admire the most, because a lot of times the crew chiefs, in addition to their mechanical duties, they're assisting the medic. Either they're doing chest compressions or whatever the medic needs.
Can you believe that? Isn't that something?
I mean, it's just a blessing to work with some of these amazing individuals. That was it was a humbling experience. One thing that this mission really did for me is that, before you feel sorry for yourself, hey, you've got all your parts and pieces and you're still here. So stop complaining. That's usually the conversation I have with myself.
Right.
Yeah.
We would on occasion do the bandage mission where we'd fly all over Afghanistan to all the different FOBs and pick up wounded guys that had been brought into FOBs. Mm-hmm. And take them back to Bagram. Those were rough days.
Yeah. With Bagram, though, that's what was interesting is Bagram itself could be very garrison-like, as you know, Fig. You come back from a mission or you're doing a hero flight, which is you're picking up an American killed in action. Somebody tells you to put your cover on, or it's yeah. Well, and it got so because my job at that point, I was on staff. I still flew quite a bit, but I was a tactical operations officer. So when I had to leave the flight line to go over to the PX to get a haircut or what have you, I got tired of saluting and returning salutes. So I managed to get a sling from the aid station. So whenever I had to go leave the airfield, I just put my right arm in a sling.
That's a good call.
But some of the guys were picking up on it, and I hung it up. So if anybody was going to the PX and their arm was tired, they just grab it. It just kind of became a communal thing.
Perfect.
A lot of right arm injuries over in our area.
Weird.
I'm guessing you didn't have to carry a sword for that either, as Gunny put on our show.
Yeah.
2 weeks ago, by the time you hear this episode on the podcast, what kind of officer doesn't carry a sword? An one-armed officer.
One-armed officer,
sir. Hey, just a logistics type question for you. When you were at Bagram, were you south of, say, the tower? Were you south? Was that where you guys were hooched up?
We were across the airfield from the functioning tower, but we were on the same side as the old Russian tower.
Oh shit! So you're on the west side or east side of the field. East side of the field.
East side of the field. Yeah.
Okay.
So at
Did
the
you guys
time,
have your own? Did you have your own chow hall over there?
yeah, we did. I remember. You forget when you're deployed what day it is, except you know when it's Friday because that's surf and turf.
That's right.
And I remember that's when we always said the Air Force were like locusts because they would just converge on our chow hall.
Yeah.
And the sergeant major, being the sergeant major, asked the Air Force guys, "Do you guys have a chow hall?" "Oh, yeah, Sergeant Major." "Is it good?" "Well, yeah, then stay the fuck out of mine."
That's right.
Nice.
Yeah.
But
hey, I got a couple notes here I'd like to hit you about. Then I'd like to actually get into you've done some civilian medevac.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I don't want to take you out of Iraq or out of Afghanistan, but too early.
Yeah. That was my first deployment. We were at Kuwaiti Naval Base. We were
all the airplanes were all packed up, ready to get on a ship and everything, right?
ready to go. We were 4 days from coming home, and the commander, I didn't appreciate him at the time, and it was really immature on my part to think the way I did of him, but I realized he was an amazing commander, and he was the commander that we needed. And I just can't imagine how tough it was for him to tell us that, guys, we're not going home on Thursday. We're going back into Iraq. So we were, we were still, and it was when he called us when he called us all together, it was about 2,100, and it was strange. And he says, guys, first of all, I said, I want to thank you guys for staying in the proper uniform, staying out of trouble, and doing the right thing. Well, I remember thinking, all right, now you know you're not going to like what's coming, because he never gives compliments.
Here it comes.
And he said, guys, we're not going home on Thursday. I'm sorry. That's all the information I have. Call your families. The phone center, there was a lot of yelling, and and my wife, being the sensible one, she wasn't happy about it, but she said, well, take care of yourself. And a lot of us were still in a little bit of a denial, because we thought, all right, this is just going to cost us another week or two in Kuwait, and they're going to do their analysis and realize that we need to come home, because most of our aircraft had a lot of maintenance needed to be done. So they were one-time flighted to the port.
Yeah, weird. So now what, right? One-time flighted to the port. What are you going to do? Shit us a bunch of new parts and out there. Yeah,
that's we got all the parts and all the maintenance, and for the first week or two, the maintenance folks, they pulled off a miracle. They got those aircraft ready to go. But we thought that, all right, another week or two in Kuwait. And when they told us we're going to get onto the port and break the shrink wrap off because we're going back in, oh shit, that was the oh shit moment. And again, it's comical now, but at the time it wasn't. They made us sit through group therapy before they gave us our weapons back.
Is that a no shitter?
Yeah, they had a yeah.
Oh boy.
So
okay.
That was that was interesting, but our sister company, though, they had lost, I believe, 4 aircraft and 2 crews, and everyone kind of felt that we're going to be kept here until we lose somebody, and if I'm going to get it, I'm just going to get it over with. That was kind of where we were at mentally, but thankfully we did come home with everyone.
Well, yeah, okay. So that was going to be my question. You've kind of pre-answered it there. So, but did you ever go into hot LZs? I mean, you hear about that with the Vietnam all the time. Were you taking gunfire in any of the places you were going to pull?
More often than not, I mean, my personal experience, it was for the most part quiet. It wasn't heavy. It was there was some sporadic times, and I know one time we were en route to what's called the POI, the point of injury. My co-pilot asked if they were still in contact, and he said he was about to say negative. He got the in out, and we hear shots over the radio. So,
what was that?
That was just my squad mate firing off firecrackers, not the sweat.
Well, and I don't know, but it was just comical. It's like, well, we're still coming, but we just need to know where that's coming from. So, but I know one time in particular, it wasn't me. I'd gotten off shift, but the fresh first up crew, IED site, and they were directed to land the spot on the road. And as they sat down, an IED went off right in front of the aircraft. That was most likely an ambush. They were just waiting to pull a medevac in there.
Yeah.
So, and
they got out okay.
They got out okay. It just threw one rock, shrapnel through the cowling. The aircraft was okay, and the crew was, thank God.
Yeah. Well, then you got back, and are you still flying? You're still flying medevac, right? Yeah.
No, I'm a flight instructor. I'm an instructor pilot as a government civilian.
Okay.
In H-60s?
Yeah, H-60s. Okay. So in all, it was 2 Iraq deployments as a medevac guy and 2 Afghan deployments as an air assault pilot.
Can you tell us the difference?
We didn't talk much about that.
Yeah. Tell us the difference. I mean, I explain the difference between medevac and air assault.
Okay. Let's see if I can put this in layman terms without throwing out a bunch of acronyms. So medevac was if you get an injured soldier, civilian, whomever you're called for, they need en route care. And you've got the giant red cross that's supposed to signify that you're a non-combatant and you have no combat multiplying weapons. And your job is to get them to the nearest combat support hospital. So they need en route care. Now, air assault, that's where you're taking troops in and out of whatever objective they need to secure. And you've got 2 M240s on either door gunners, as we're called.
So air assault, you're carrying trigger pullers to do their job.
Yep, that's a better way to put it, Fig.
And medevac, you're pulling trigger pullers that have been wounded out.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, so you have armament capability as a air assault. You got crew chief with the door gun,
and we've got another two crew members with guns in the back, 240s, and
nice.
Bypass and suppress. Their job is to shear a way out of there if needed.
Okay. Having been in a situation where I've flown into combat, had absolutely no way of defending myself other than my M9, I'm just going to make an assumption that which was a more comfortable mission for you to fly, medevac or air assault?
Comforting, it was air assault because there's a lot of planning that went into that. You know, there was the time on target plus or minus 30 seconds, but now medevac, you just got a grid and a frequency and off you went.
Yeah, that's some cowboy shit right there, buddy.
Yeah. In fact, a lot of unknowns. My second tour in Iraq, I knew this was my last shift. The incoming unit was taking over. This is my last time on first up. And of course, 2:00 in the morning, you get the call, IED, and the co-pilot, the crew chief run out to the aircraft, get it up to engine start. The medic and myself run into the TOC. I'm looking at the map. The medic's gathering patient information, and they give us a frequency and a grid. So I'm put this frequency and I'm trying to make contact with these folks and I'm not hearing anything. Yeah, it's not the first time this has happened. You know, maybe someone wrote a number down wrong, but I can see the burning Humvee in the distance. And my guess is this is where we need to go. So as I'm circling over, these guys have it looks textbook in how they set up the landing zone. But the problem is it was on a major road intersection with wires everywhere. And
wires, you mean like telephone
wires, high tension wires. Right.
Yeah, okay.
So that area, as I said later, I couldn't put a Mini Coupe in there, much less Hawkus Maximus. So staring down at this, we're trying to crack this nut, and I'm circling to figure out, all right, where are we going to land? And about that point, my crew chief yells out RPG. So I brake left. I'm putting the belly towards it because I'm thinking if we take a hit, it's better to get in the belly where we've got some armor. Well, no, it wasn't an RPG. It was a parachute flare that they thought we couldn't see him, so the guy launches a white parachute flare. Yeah, and of course this is going to happen on my last mission.
Of course, yeah.
Thankfully, we evacuate the patient. I had heard later that he was going to make it, and we got him back there. But it took me a while to call. I had called around to talk to that unit to explain to them they need to rework their LZ marking procedures.
Yeah, parachute flare. No. Looks like a projectile, bro.
Yeah, and we're low and slow. So I thought, well, the light's up. Well, that's it. Go toward the light. Hey, at least it didn't hurt.
Right.
Well, now that's a show title too. At least it didn't hurt.
Yeah. Right. I noticed that a lot of these things would happen toward the end of a deployment. And this is fast forward 2009, is actually on Thanksgiving Day. We had picked up at a FOB Salerno. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, Fig.
Oh, yeah, I've been in Salerno.
Yeah, it's
one way in, one way out.
Yep, KG Pass, right?
Yep.
So as we had taken off, we're headed back to Bagram. This is at night. We're seeing some tracer fire, And as we got closer, we're looking, there's a truck shooting at a house. The house is shooting back at the truck, and there's someone standing off in the field shooting at the house and the truck, alternating. And yeah, we just found that hilarious. Like, hey, probably a family dispute. Looks like we're missing one hell of a party. Well, that's when they heard our rotors, and all three of them started shooting up at us. Like, oh shit, break right. So that party was invitation only. We were not invited.
Only in Afghanistan can you have that family feud, and then now we're all pissed at you.
Yeah, that's exactly how that went. So that was, I'll never forget Thanksgiving of 2009. It was nothing personal, just business.
I was there in Thanksgiving of 2010. I was there.
Okay.
I was back for Thanksgiving of 2010. That was the holiday tour. Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's. In 2010, 11.
Yeah, during those years, that's kind of that whole couple of decades was just a blur. Yeah.
And that was busy time right then. That was a busy time for anybody that wore wings. And there was a lot of air because the roads were too dangerous. Anything that had to go anywhere was going by air, obviously.
During that deployment, that's when Bergdahl decided to take a walk. So that became the main effort. Everything that was being done was stopped. He was the main effort.
Looking for him.
Well, I don't think I actually flew one of those. I was more planning by that point, but vehicle interdictions, any piece of intel, they were on it. And that guy became the main effort.
Do you recall, hindsight's 2020, do you recall, did they know he wandered off on his own, or did they think he'd been?
No, they told us right away he wandered off. That was known right from the get-go to us. I don't think the press here in the States knew about that yet, but we knew about it. So, yeah. So
tongue bleeding. Trying not to.
I hope not.
Treason.
But no, that was. But back to the States, and after that, I needed a break. So my branch manager sent me to Fort Rucker to teach the Blackhawk course.
Nice.
Okay.
And that was very rewarding. That was, and one thing as an instructor too that I realized is, man, I had a lot of bad habits I picked up over the years, and I just didn't realize that until I became an instructor pilot.
Oh, you had to go back and teach it standardized, and
right? Oh yeah. Yeah. So
give us a bad habit. What was the worst and hardest?
Well, trying to fly and come inside the cockpit and start flipping radios. I mean, that was just one that's a horrible habit. So you just learn a little more about cockpit management. There's been students where at a certain stage in training, man, I'd be better off with a bag of concrete in the other seat.
Sure. 200 pounds of gas, man.
Yeah. Well, but the first couple classes, you're given the stronger students because by the time they get to us, they've already gone through primary instruments and basic combat skills. So
yeah, you're teaching them their final weapon system. This is what they're going to fly.
This is their airframe. This is going to be their career airframe. Well, the first couple classes, you're given the stronger students. And as a new instructor, I finally said, hey, give me somebody I got to train. I want a challenge. Well, careful what you wish for, because they hand me his records and they were just bleeding red, all kinds of red ink. I said, okay, I asked for this. As soon as I sat in front of him and spoke, man, he cringed like an abused animal. And I stopped. He was a young lieutenant. I said, sir, you had screamers, didn't you? And he said, yeah. I said, well, look, I promise you I'll never scream at you and I'll never belittle you. But don't quit on me. I'm not going to quit on you. Took about a week to get out of his shell, and he wound up graduating. So that was one of my most professional accomplishments I'm proud of.
That was good leadership exercise there, warrant officer.
Yeah. Well, but again, I'm paying it forward, and it's what Vapor did for me. So I was able to pay that forward.
That's a Marine for you right there, bro. You can take the Marine out of the Marines, but you can't take the Marine out of the Marine.
No, that's something that's what we wear. It's just something about us. And as I say, we can smell our own kind.
Oh, absolutely.
Yep. That's awesome.
Yep.
But yeah, so had a good time doing that for 3 years. Then back to Fort Bragg in 2013 to the 82nd as a standardization pilot. And from there, another Afghan deployment. And I retired from the Army in 2016.
Okay.
Well, thank you for your service.
Indeed. Thank you.
And thank you guys.
And so is that when you became a civilian instructor?
No, after that, I started flying civilian medevac.
But was it in North Carolina, or did you
Yep.
go to some tropical location far away in a beautiful land?
Yeah, it's called
tours in Kauai.
it's called Fayetteville, North Carolina. That was the
Vietnam
tropical paradise right there.
Yes. I know it well.
It is tropical.
Not as well as you, but I do know.
Yeah, that was
Well,
interesting.
the reason I said, "Are you nuts?" I could be wrong, but are not civilian medevacs helicopter? They're among the highest accident rate aviation.
I think statistically, it is. And one thing that I had to get used to is flying single pilot.
Oh, okay. That's a game changer.
And also, too, it's an
go with the collective.
No, and it's an interesting dynamic because, as the pilots and the mechanics, we belong to another company, say Air Methods, Metro, where in a hospital program, the med crew belongs to the hospital. So think of them as your customers as well.
All right.
Okay.
So it's an interesting dynamic. But I tell you, in the civilian world, flying medevac, that was probably just as not eye-opening, if not more, because in combat, this is what you're expecting. But in civilian, you see a lot of these people that, nobody woke up that morning thinking they were going to be flown to the nearest trauma center.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That was really, really eye-opening. In fact, I had a picture a medic gave me of a car that was crushed like a beer can because the driver was texting. So I would show that to my daughter. I said, "This is what happens when you text and drive. Don't do it."
Well, it'll never happen to me.
Yeah.
That'll never happen to me. What'll go wrong, right?
Yeah, I had a lot of people in my aircraft that said the same thing. But it was good in the sense that you never knew what was going to happen that day. It could have been anything.
And can I make an assumption? You get a mission, and you get a grid. You get a street intersection, basically, right? Someplace, parking lot, someplace to set down, and you got the same kind of hazard. Nobody's shooting at you, but you still got power lines, light poles, trees, overpasses, the same.
Idiots trying to help.
Idiots trying to help. Yeah. Yeah.
What could go wrong?
And one thing that I was happy to say is that never once was I asked to push weather. When dispatch calls you, is they ask for a weather check to a particular county, and they deliberately won't tell you anything about the patient because they don't want that to influence your decision. Because if they tell you it's a child, you may push weather a little bit.
Interesting.
Sure.
That's brilliant, though.
Yeah.
Really
So
because
do you have any?
You know what? Because you can't help somebody tomorrow if you're dead.
Absolutely.
That's
Absolutely. And one good thing is they also have to tell you, if they ask you for this mission, they have to tell you that another base passed on it for weather.
Okay.
So it's really a good safety system. But
it's nice to hear that that's in place.
Oh yeah, and
I imagine that procedure, I'm guessing, is written in blood, as many procedures are.
It's most unforgiving. But I always tell people that if it took me more than 30 seconds to make a weather decision, I probably wasn't going.
Yeah.
And the thing that was really different as doing this under combat conditions was that in combat you give it the old college try. If weather, you try to creep around it. But something to bear in mind is that, hey, all you're doing is delaying transport because we still have a ground ambulance. So if I say I'm going to take this mission, but I'm trying to hunt and peck through weather, you're just delaying transport.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. Very good.
Can I make an assumption based on one experience that I had with a civilian medevac crew? When you were on call, on duty, were you paired with a nurse or a flight nurse or so for a certain period of time, and you were on call basically as a crew?
Yeah, on a crew. We had the way that the programs I worked for did it, we had one nurse and one paramedic. And one program I worked for, the med crew was on 24 hours and pilots were on for 12. And another program I worked for, everyone just did 12-hour shifts. So it varied.
Were the people that you worked with, were you working with any veterans?
Oh yeah, there were quite a few, and a few Navy corpsmen. There were a few of us. It was really, and most of the pilots were veterans. In fact, I'd say 99% of us were Army or Marine Corps pilots.
I'm going to make a statement, and you can feel free to chime in and repeat this for you too. Okay. Whenever I'm crewed with another veteran, before we even get off the ground, I kind of know where I'm at already. They're a known entity to me. I'm making some assumptions, but I've never been wrong.
No, you're absolutely right. There's it's something, and it's just, you just gel.
Yep.
You know, I know what he's capable of. He knows what I'm capable of. So it was really, I never thought of it that way, but you're right. It's just unspoken that, you know, most likely I can depend on him and they can depend on me.
Yeah. And it's been like that since at my civilian career from day one. If I was flying with another military trained pilot, veteran, I knew I knew what I had right off the get go.
Absolutely, because at our core we were kind of trained the same.
Yeah, it really didn't matter what service.
Right.
But the fact that I was flying with a fellow veteran.
Yeah, in fact, it's comical because when I went to another program, my boss, my senior lead pilot, was an old British Royal Navy pilot, and we would joke back and forth. But on the way to work, when I was going to relieve him, he called me in that jovial Cockney accent of his and asked me how I like my tea. To which I would always say, I like it poured in the harbor. That's where I like my tea. So he would respond, call me an ungrateful colonial, and we'd go back and forth on that.
There you go. Tell me, was he wearing a red hat with white letters on it that said "Make America Great Britain Again"?
He was pretty conservative. In fact, he said that I needed culture, so he left a cricket bat up in the office. And I did actually help kill a snake with it. So I told him, hey, I found a use for this cricket bat.
Nice.
That's awesome.
Beautiful. All right. So, sadly, it's getting time to land this plane. So I'm going to put you on the spot. Funniest or scariest or most poignant moment in all of your aviation career, be it as an ordnanceman, as a medevac pilot, as an assault pilot, any of these, which of these? What comes to mind to you, Cale?
I had the one comes straight to mind during a civilian medevac, a gangland shooting, and this was relatively common for that area. They're calling multiple aircraft, and they bring the patients to the hospital out front. I land on the pad. I'm at idle, and the other aircraft hopped over to the airport. They're waiting for me to load my patients. So my nurse and medic get out, and they hop into the ambulance, and we're still on comms. Well, his fellow gang members are showing up in force, and it looks like hospital security is getting overwhelmed. So I called to my crew. I said, hey, be advised, you guys got indigenous personnel surrounding the ambulance. And so certain things that you're trained to respond. So I had to explain to our older dispatcher what indigenous personnel was. And the other pilot, who he was a Marine Corps Cobra pilot, he looked at me and said, are you going to start counting military-age males next? What the hell's wrong with you?
Hey, I'm just looking out for my crew, brother.
Well, you just go into automatic mode, right? And you go,
yeah, this is what I'm trained to do. I'm giving a spot report.
Right.
But yeah, overall, guys, I've been blessed with an amazing career. I've had a lot of amazing mentors, and I really count that time in the Marine Corps. My first squadron commander was Too Tall Craig, and unfortunately, I don't think he's with us anymore. It's been a blessing. I've been blessed.
Well, awesome.
as we all have. Well, thank you for all those stories and your service, and doing this twice.
Indeed, can't do it twice. For those listening to the podcast version, we tried this once before. I was unable to recover the sound. We've changed services. We're now with StreamYard, so we get everything. Sounds great. And so hopefully the sound is better in your ears as you're listening to this.
I thought you guys were going to make me keep doing it till I got it right.
We just wanted to get you out of the closet, brother.
I'm just glad you're out of the closet, bro. I really am glad you're out of that closet.
I'm not going to live that one down.
I was feeling really sad the whole interview the first time when you were in that closet. Not the proverbial closet. You were in the.
No, I was literally in the closet.
He was literally in a closet.
Literally, he was.
Yeah, and that
Vanished
didn't
to
go
the
the way I thought.
closet. And it was, the Wi-Fi was all torqued up, and anyway,
Yeah,
this was
and-
so much better.
Yeah, this
Yeah.
worked out, guys. But thank you guys so much for having me.
Well, you
Glad
stay
to have
safe.
you.
You stay
Thank you.
safe
Stay
because I know
safe.
what you're.
Thank you
I
for
know
your
what you're.
service.
Yes, thank you
You're
for your
still
service.
teaching people.
Please stay
Don't let 'em
safe.
kill you.
know, God, please don't let them kill you. And train good pilots, man. I know you will.
Exactly.
I will, and you guys also fly safe. I'm looking forward to hearing the next episode of your podcast.
Well, we're going to do some more of this, and we're going to have you back. In the meantime, after saying thank you for your service, we also want to thank Dave Hamilton.
Mackie
We
Gab,
also wanna
thank
thank
you,
Dave
Dave Hamilton. You are the man. Dave Hamilton is the man.
And the Mac Gig Gab, which is not a Mac show. The Gig Gab, he's a musician, so that's a show for musicians. And the Business Brain, which is a show for entrepreneurs. Also, we have a glossary. So we mentioned a billion terms that
Oh my gosh.
we don't have on the glossary. If you don't understand a term you heard on this show, shoot us an email, and
Yeah,
we'll get it
we'll
up
get it on
so
there.
there I was.us/glossary.
Easy for
New
you
lips
to say.
tonight, apparently.
Easy.
Email. I'm going to put our email addresses on the website. 2 people have told me this week, hey, you mention it all the time, but you don't have it anywhere on your website. So I'm going to fix that. It's repeat@sothereiwas.us, REPETE, sticks@sothereiwas.us, and fig@sothereiwas.us. Those are our email addresses. New this week, merchandise. sothereiwas.us/merch, MERCH. Pretty cool stuff. We got
Cool
hats, we
cozy.
got mugs,
Koozies. Mugs.
koozies.
Is the
clocks,
bikini on there?
and a bikini, baby? Because if there was a bikini there, I had to put our logo on a bikini.
I love the bikini, man. I love the bikini.
Because we
It would, I couldn't get my wife to wear it. My daughter would probably wear it, but I'm not going to let her wear it.
Get your ladies a bikini, and then we'll go from there. We have patrons who are supporting this show. So if you feel like this show is a buck and a quarter to get out to you, hey, throw that buck and a quarter in there, please, and help us continue to bring all these great stories and these great aviators to you. sothereiwas.us/Patreon. You too can be a pilot at So There I Was. Thank you to our sponsor this week. And finally, Fig, who's that? Can you hear it?
That,
Is it
my
too
friends, is the Dos Gringos, the 2 Air Force F-16 pilots that make the Air Force sound so good.
They make them sound good. They make them sound great.
They have great music. They let us use their music on our podcast, and they have 4 albums out, and you can't go wrong with any one of them.
We've got to have them back. We've got to have them back. They were a lot of fun.
They were a hoot.
Yeah. Fig, until next week, do you have any advice for the folks who are listening tonight?
Why, I would normally say check 6 since we're with our helicopter friend. Don't sit on the collective, but I guess we're saying check 6. Check 6.
Yeah, do not sit on the collective.
Don't sit on the collective. Please don't sit on the collective.
I think I might actually leave that in and make it a show title, but
Please don't sit on the collective, folks.
oh, don't do it. When you're not sitting on it, don't let go of it either. Folks,
Oh,
don't let go of the collective.
don't let go. Don't sit on it.
Well, there I was, crossing the pond, and you could see that I wasn't exactly fond of all the shit I was wearing on that day. Now an F-16 is cramped enough, but it's even worse with all that stuff supposed to save your life. But we knew there was no way. 'Cause when you're going down the North Atlantic, man, it's over.
Hey, Fig.
Repeat. What's that?
Did I lose you? We lost Fig. Oh.
He'll be back.
What he said, folks. What did he say, KO?
Oh, it's over! It's over! He said it's over! For
over.
crying out
Fig is
loud, it's
back.
over!
Right.
Mistakes were made.